listening to Sports Radio Detroit.
Welcome to Grave Discussions. I am your host, Barnabas.
And I am your co-host, Samael. Welcome to episode 71. So funny, you'll die.
Aha. Yeah, I thought that was pretty clever.
That was.
So, yeah, guys, exactly as the title implies, we're going to be discussing horror comedies in greater depth this week. We talked about Club Dread last week, which was a fun discussion.
Yes.
It's a great horror comedy film, but we wanted to kind of expand on it. So the whole episode today pretty much is going to be devoted to horror comedies. And in the main segment, we're going to dive really into it and focus on one specific movie, just kind of talk about what makes a great horror comedy.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm excited about that, man.
Fuck yeah.
As always, we do have to give a shout out to Sports Radio Detroit, our gracious host network.
Yes. And you can find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look up Sports Radio Detroit. That's SRD, Sports Radio Detroit, not Detroit Sports Radio.
Yeah, get it right, guys. So check them out. You can check out all the other awesome shows on the network as well. And we just have a very brief sponsored message, and then we'll get right into the show, so stick around. Here at Grave Discussions, we know that addiction can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Let the Detox Helpline help you break your addiction to drugs and alcohol. Call the addiction specialist now at the Detox and Treatment Helpline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
They're always available for you. And if you have private insurance, they specialize in finding you the right treatment. Give them a call at 1-800-213-9257. That is 800-213-9257.
All right, Samael. So a lot, as always, happening in the world of horror over this past week.
And this bit of news I'm pretty excited for.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could tell. So tell us all about it.
So there are 2 confirmed sequels to 2018's revamp of the Halloween series. There's 2 movies coming out, one in 2020, October 16th, entitled Halloween Kills, and then in 2021, Halloween Ends. I'm kind of worried because, as I always mention when we talk about these year later sequels, I'm always worried about sequels that take place immediately after a movie was just made, because we saw what happened when Halloween 4 was released. So Halloween 4 was released, 20 years after the original Halloween, and it was a hit. Everyone loved it because Michael was back on the screen chasing a little girl who was, Laurie's daughter in that timeline. But then, 1 year later, we got the Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, and that one was not received well by fans or the box office, and it basically bombed up until recently when it became a cult hit.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like that happens with a lot of movies, no matter what. I mean, a lot of people still like, various Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, for example, even though they're pretty bad.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just that cult following, but I do kind of agree with your skepticism about it. It's cool that they're filming it back to back. I mean, I feel like at least there you have that sort of constant attention to it. And so there could be some consistency between the 2 movies. But yeah, I mean, is it rushed? Is it going to feel rushed? Is it going to feel complete? Maybe it would be better if they took, a couple years just to really think about the story that they want to flesh out. As long as the movies themselves, to me, end and begin back to back, that's all I really care about.
Yeah, that would be sick.
I want it to just continue.
Yeah.
Leave at a cliffhanger and Halloween Kills, and then it's like, fuck, I have to wait a whole year to find out what happens. It wasn't really like that with the other movie, in my opinion.
I'm going to call it. So in Halloween Kills, Laurie's going to die.
Okay.
And then in Halloween Ends, Laurie's daughter is going to die, and then her granddaughter is going to end up killing Michael.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I kind of figured like, you know what, maybe one of Laurie's, either her kid or grandkid or whatever, something's going to happen
Oh, yeah.
where they're going to kind of take over the legacy.
Because we saw Allison at the end of the 2018 Halloween clutching that knife,
Mhm.
and we know what happened in Halloween 4. Her Laurie's daughter in that timeline, Jamie, was about to take over and be the new killer when they all of a sudden changed directions for Halloween 5, and she had an episode because Michael influenced her, and then now Michael's back, yada yada yada.
Yeah. And they kind of did the same thing in Friday Part 5 as well.
Oh yeah, with Tommy.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. If they don't like make her seem like the killer at the end of Halloween Kills or something stupid like that, then I don't think we have to worry about that. It'll be good if that's the case. But yeah, I'm excited for it, but I'm a little hesitant.
Same.
But David Gordon Green is returning to direct both films, which gives me a little bit of hope. At least we're not going to be switching the creative vision around completely.
As long as they bring back James Jude Courtney as Michael Myers,
Yeah.
I think Michael will be sweet. Unless Nick Castle wants to reprise his role.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know if it could work because of the size difference. James Jude Courtney is about 6'3", with the boots on. He's about 6'4.5". Nick Castle's about 5'10". So with the boots on, even if they give him lifts like they did to Dick Warlock, he'll be maximum like 6'2", which is fine. It's pretty close to like James Jude Courtney's like real height. So like I think it could work because in part 2 of Halloween, the original, Dick Warlock, the guy who played Michael, was 5'9". They gave him 3-inch lifts and 1-inch boots.
It also depends like how you shoot
Yeah.
the character too. And I mean, I wouldn't mind that if they shot him differently and he wore some taller boots or something like that. But at the same time, it's like if you're going to be telling really the same story in this saga,
Let's use the same
so
Michael.
close together, yeah, really everything should feel kind of consistent, including how they shoot the movie, more or less. I'd love them to do something unique with the films, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But let's move on from that one, guys. Still big news, exciting news. This next one,
I felt weird about this.
yeah, it does fall into the realm of horror technically, but it's really a comic book movie, and it's not what you might think. So Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is coming out as the follow-up to Doctor Strange.
But it's going to be a horror movie.
Yeah, at least that's what it's kind of being labeled as the first MCU horror film, which is interesting. As we all know, Blade is not like part of the MCU or anything like that, but it will be, just not the old
Oh, yeah,
ones.
did you hear Blade's role is being reprised? They already found a new Blade.
Yep, Mahershala Ali, who is a phenomenal actor.
Dude, he looks the
excited.
part, too. I think he'd be a sick Blade.
Yeah, I think so too. But not about that. Doctor Strange, though. The first one, he encounters Dormammu, and that was a pretty cool scene. Not really like horror, but it's this like cosmic craziness.
Yeah.
This one, I think he's going to be like running around with the Scarlet Witch, portrayed by Elizabeth Olsen, to different dimensions or multiverses and encountering all sorts of crazy creatures, which is cool.
I'm pretty excited about this, considering Swamp Thing was canceled.
Oh yeah,
Like I was pretty excited for like the superhero horror.
yeah.
We had Brightburn, which was it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was very excited for Swamp Thing, especially because the trailer looked so sick. I'm assuming they had almost already finished filming too,
Yeah.
judging by the trailer. So like, this is a good replacement, I guess. So we'll see.
I think so. Yeah, this and Blade coming out. Doctor Strange is supposed to play up the gothic, the horror, according to director Scott Derrickson, who also did The Exorcism of Emily Rose and Sinister.
Oh,
So shit. I mean, he's got the resume.
it sounds good, but like, come on, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm into it. I'm into comic book stuff more than you, I think. So
Oh yeah.
I'm like pumped for it, and I love Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, I'm familiar with him pretty much. And I don't know. I just don't know how they're gonna. Just his face, just the actor. You're just so used to seeing him like as Doctor Strange. You can't really imagine
Benedict Cumberbunch.
Can't really imagine him in like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Being Doctor Strange. It's just strange. Ah.
That's fair.
If I just bang my head off this fucking table.
I mean, the film does at least offer a lot of cool chances for some creativity, so I'm excited for it, but no more information on that yet. Finally, really just a stupid article. This kind of ticked me off, but there's a whole article about a potential upcoming legal battle. Actually, I think there is a legal battle right now. They're locked up in something, but the original producers of it, the miniseries, are fighting for some kind of monies from the new film, the 2017 adaptation.
It's a different adaptation of the book. It's not a remake of a fucking miniseries. That's like right now if we're like, yo, let's reboot Langoliers. Let's just make it something, it won't be a remake, it'll just be a reimagining, and then someone's like, oh, are you remaking Langoliers? I want money. Like, no, that's not how it works.
Well, apparently they said that the 2017 feature film is indeed a remake, is indisputable, and apparently if it was ruled that it is indeed a remake, they would have, I guess, technically rights to it.
But the producers themselves said this is a reimagining of the book. This is not a remake of the miniseries. So if the guy who made the source material says it's not a remake, it's not a remake. Like if I fucking, let's say I make another The Shining, and then fucking Stanley Kubrick wants money from me, I'll be like, yo, eat shit.
Yeah. I mean, dude, even like Pet Sematary, consider that, people thought it was a remake of the original, and I don't think so really either, because there's a lot of stuff that's different between both of those movies.
Oh yeah, it's definitely based off the book more or less. I would
apart from like the main flip flop.
Yeah, that was the twist. I mean, I don't know. What if in Halloween we remade Halloween, Rob Zombies, and now Michael Myers' sister's the killer, and it's not Michael.
I don't know, man. It's really stupid. I guess it's really going to be up to the courts to decide it, but that's happening right now. I'm really hoping that it doesn't delay anything. But
the fuck do courts know about horror movies?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it can go either way.
You better bring a professional, like, film student to sit there and be like, actually, this is a reimagining of the book. This is not a remake, and that is preposterous, or whatever the fuck those, like...
They should get us in there.
Yeah, I'll be like, yo, let me explain something to you, you fuck.
No, hey, we give them the business, man, because it's really stupid. Let us know what you guys think about it, but we're going to move on to some quick trailers here. Speaking of it, we just got the trailer for It Chapter 2, but it's the final trailer, so there's some new footage in there, and it's looking pretty cool.
Yeah, it doesn't really give too much away. It's not really, like, in order, timeline-wise, like... Doesn't really show you like this happens at the beginning of the movie, then this. It's just a sort of few different like actiony, creepy sequences that like just happen in the movie. Like it wasn't like the Halloween trailer that gave pretty much everything away. Like this showed different bits and parts from different parts of the movies and not in any order. So
yeah, if you're a fan of the book, I suppose you could probably pick out certain scenes. Like I noticed a couple scenes, and I know like relatively kind of when they happened, but no, yeah, all we really got were a couple pretty cool scenes, including some more kind of big picture supernatural stuff apparently, which looked kind of cool. But yeah, not too much given away. Bill Skarsgård still just looks incredible as Pennywise, and there's some really cool scary scenes in there, so I'm really pumped to see his performance in this one.
I wonder if Tim Curry enjoyed Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise.
He probably does.
I think so.
I feel like he just appreciates good acting and good film, So
oh yeah,
but that one's still coming out September 6th, guys. The next one actually was the most exciting for me.
Me too.
We finally got a trailer for Shudder's Creepshow, and it's dropping on the platform September 26th.
And it looks creepy enough, man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It shows like sneak previews of a few of the different stories. Shows us a few of the practical effects going on. Tom Savini, obviously involved with that. Looked pretty sick. And David Arquette's gonna be in it, and so many more.
Tobin Bell,
yeah, his old ass is still kicking.
Yeah, there's gonna be a ton of people in this one, and I love that it's all practical effects pretty much. I didn't really see any CGI or any obvious CGI.
I mean,
anyway.
come on, Tom Savini.
Yeah, of course. And cinematography looks great. The creep looks awesome.
Creep
I'm
looks
actually
badass,
really
yeah.
excited to see the creep. And overall, yeah, it just looks fantastic. So pretty much getting to 2 months away, and man, it's gonna be here, sooner than we might think. So,
Dude, I'm really excited about it. Like, I'm just gonna binge watch all of them in one night, probably.
Me too, yeah.
Actually, no, I'm probably gonna just do 2 per night or 1 per night.
You gotta enjoy it a little bit,
Yes.
Want to come back to it, just like Tales from the Crypt or whatever. So.
Oh yeah, I watched that whole fucking series though.
Oh yeah. So guys, be on the lookout for Creepshow coming out real soon. The last trailer that we have is for a psychological mindfuck, as described by Bloody Disgusting. Daniel Isn't Real, which was kind of the talk of the South by Southwest Film Festival, hailed as the best horror movie at that festival. So it's coming out December 6th on VOD and in limited theaters.
I had no idea what the hell was going on in that trailer. That's what I like.
No, I get you.
Makes me wonder. It kind of seems like, I mean, you can't really piece anything together from the trailer, so it makes me think it's going to be an experimental horror film of some sort. And you know how I feel about those.
Oh yeah, it looks experimental. The visuals look great. It's from the producers of Mandy, so it's got that but similar type of visual style. But let me read you the synopsis here. In Daniel Isn't Real, troubled college freshman Luke, played by Miles Robbins, who looks like one of the fucking Sprouse siblings.
Yeah.
To me, for some reason, I was like, is that like Cole Sprouse? It's
That's
not.
the triplet that went missing.
Yeah. He suffers a violent family trauma and resurrects his childhood imaginary friend Daniel to help him cope. And Daniel's like a cool guy, and he tries to help him, but he pushes him to the very edge of sanity and into a desperate struggle for control of his mind and his soul. So, yeah.
See, that's the thing about having borderline personality disorder, man. You can't just bring that fucker out,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we got Barnabas and Samael, and we only let them out during the podcast.
That's right, yeah. We keep ourselves in control.
Exactly.
So,
If Samael came out in real life when I'm doing normal things, I'd get into a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I save the shit talking for Samael.
I guess I would just be very judgmental.
Yeah.
Where normally I don't say anything.
Be super critical.
Of course.
Someone makes you some ice cream at Cold Stone. Let me tell you why this is garbage.
Those chocolate chips shouldn't be in that particular arrangement. So yeah, guys, that's going to be it for the news here. We're going to get into our first official segment of the episode and into our discussion about horror comedies, and we've got a good one. We're going to talk about a true classic in The Cult Corner. And on this week's Cult Corner Fiends, we have a very hilarious Dracula spoof. Dracula, Dead and Loving It.
Starring the late, great Leslie Nielsen. You may know him from hits such as Creepshow, Airplane, and Scary Movie 3.
Oh, yeah. Don't Call Me Shirley. I fucking love that guy. He's one of the funniest actors, I think, of all time. Actually got his start in serious roles, but I mean, you couldn't tell by watching this movie, although, of course, it is directed by the not late yet, but still great Mel Brooks, probably my favorite comedic director of all time. He's just a genius, but this was actually his last theatrical feature film, surprisingly, and it came out all the way back in 1995.
And we were like 2.
Yeah. And man, I don't even remember when the first time I watched it was, but it was a little while back. I was blown away though by how actually funny it was. And then I learned that upon its release, it was like really panned by critics, like just universally like hated.
I don't understand why, dude. Leslie Nielsen is one of those guys. just like Adam West, which by the way would have loved to see them collab, is just naturally funny. He's like probably the funniest person that was, alive until recent memory.
Yeah, he's just so like nonchalant about it. Every time he gives his lines, it's just like so natural.
It is, bro. That's why I fucking love him, yo. Like in every movie, he's the funniest person in the movie. I remember actually the first time I watched Dracula Dead and Loving It is when you brought it over, actually. And then I think you gave me Dracula Dead and Loving It for my birthday like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
That's when I initially got injured. And I was recovering, and you're like, hey, you want to watch something? I was like, oh, God, what is this? I see Leslie Nielsen as Dracula. I was like, let's see where this goes, because this sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah. It's just like a completely wild movie to even exist, because not only is Leslie Nielsen Dracula, who has a phenomenal like Transylvanian accent, by the way. It's just, I can't even like recreate it. It's Renfield, I don't care. That shit was great. But then you have Peter McNichol as Renfield, who honestly, in my opinion, maybe steals the spotlight away from Leslie Nielsen in this movie.
The greatest
Renfield.
The greatest Renfield ever portrayed.
It really is, bro. He's so fucking funny. I can't even describe it. And he kind of does like the maniacal laugh, actually a bit better than the original guy who did it, kind of too. In my opinion.
I think so.
Yeah, he's just phenomenal. We got Mel Brooks himself as Van Helsing. I mean, what more do you want? But then you also just have a star-studded cast of other people: Steven Weber as Jonathan Harker, Amy Yazbek, Lisette Anthony, Harvey Korman as Dr. Seward. That guy's amazing as well. And then Mel Brooks' wife, Anne Bancroft, as that undulating, the the gypsy woman. The movie is great. It's a spoof on the classic Dracula story. That's the kind of the over-encompassing thing. But as a spoof, of course, it plays to other movies too. A lot of other vampire movies, they're like gags that are actually referencing like the old Hammer horror vampire films.
Oh, really?
And a whole bunch of other films like Abbott and Costello, Meet Frankenstein, which Dracula was in. Just a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's just incredibly like witty.
Damn, I didn't even notice the Hammer horror stuff, because you know me, I'm more of like a late 70s to modern time. Like that's my like scope of interest, really.
Mm-hmm.
The Hammer horror, like I saw the collections on Amazon and I wanted to get them just so I can familiarize myself.
Mm-hmm.
That way that I can like more accurately point out these like little shout outs in these movies.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it just goes right over my head, and you could tell by the way stuff is said that it's definitely a reference, but I'm not hip to Hammer horror.
Yeah, but the good thing is that even if you don't completely understand the reference, at least in this movie and in Mel Brooks' movies in general, it still could be incredibly funny.
Oh, yeah.
Like yesterday, it wasn't a Mel Brooks movie, but I was watching a clip of Monty Python's The Life of Brian, and there was a whole segment about this guy saying biggest dickus, and it was just funny as shit. And it was like a reference to some other shit, but it was just really funny. And Mel Brooks movies have that appeal too, where the humor is just so goofy, but it kind of feels, I don't know, like sophisticated.
I was gonna talk about the humor actually, like just now. Like the reason I think this was not well received by like many critics was because of like the type of humor. It wasn't really like pretentious wittiness, you know what I mean? It was like just real, just like it was natural for me. Like I said, Leslie Nielsen's like the best natural. Like the one part I think with Van Helsing, he's like, she's a Nosferatu, and then oh, she's Italian, like that type of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's, you could kind of like, if you look at it, it's kind of like I call this the scary movie style of telling jokes, which is, I think this is kind of like where a scary movie got like kind of their inspiration for like how the jokes are gonna like come out. Like one person says something and then another person like says something that's like just completely asinine and is just so fucking stupid, and you're just like, that's why I think it wasn't well received by critics, because I mean critics didn't really like Scary Movie that much either, and a lot of people tried to like, you know, a lot of the really stuck up like critics tried to like shit on it, like, oh, toilet humor, unnecessary, but like that stuff is fucking amazing, yo. Like,
no, you're right completely. And I mean, this movie took bigger risks, I feel like, with the comedy too, just because it was it was just like really kind of stupid shit, but it still played into the story really well. Like,
Oh yeah.
Dracula would fucking slip on bat poop and fall down the stairs and be like, are you okay? He's like, oh yes, and then they like continue on with the story.
Yeah, that's the little side gags and shit
Yeah.
too. Is like, I don't think people were like really used to it, especially in '95 when everyone was like, like obsessed with like horror. Like at that point, everyone was like a diehard horror fan that was a horror fan. So like to see like this mockery of Dracula, I think is what really did that.
Yeah.
I don't think it was maybe they weren't used to that type of humor because like that type of humor, like I said, it was relatively new. It was like scary movie humor before Scary Movie, and that's because of like Leslie Nielsen's just natural fucking charm that he has. Like everything just rolls off the tongue, and every joke in this movie is like smooth. Even like the gags and stuff like that, they come out smooth. But like for some people, like I don't know, I guess they just don't like it. They think it's like too wacky, and to them it's like not classy or whatever. And like Dracula movies were supposed to have, at least from their point of view, like a certain type of like class. I think that's why people really appreciated the Dracula thing. He was like suave yet terrifying, like a gentleman yet there's like something wrong with him. And then they found Leslie Nielsen. They're like, all right, everything about Dracula, don't do that. Be you. He's like, okay, I can do that. Like,
he had like some suaveness and coolness, but at the same time he was like a very bumbling kind of guy.
I was gonna say it was like satirical like charm. You know what I mean? Like he was purposely trying to seem like, let's be real, Dracula in this movie was pretty fucking douchey.
Yeah.
So like that natural douche charm that he had, I think made people just like not cringe but like roll their eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when he turned into a bat and flew into the window and shit.
People are like, oh my god, that's so cheap. These fucking stupid ass gags. Like it's a
hilarious,
fucking like it's like a whatchamacallit improv show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, definitely a little bit more like ham-fisted than Young Frankenstein or something like that, where it was very funny, but at the same time I feel like there was almost more of an air of like serious filmmaking in that movie, and it just wasn't quite as wacky. Yeah. But Dracula 10 Loving It was very wacky, and I still really appreciate it though. Dude, okay, I'm just gonna come out with like my favorite scene in the movie because I wanted to ask you what yours was, but my favorite scene, probably runner up, is the one where Renfield and Dr. Seward are having like their conversation and Renfield starts eating the bugs and shit. That's hilarious. But my favorite scene has to be the one where they go and try and stake Lucy in her crypt or whatever. And he like stakes her, and that like mountain of blood like comes out onto Steven Weber. And then apparently, fun fact, if you didn't know, I might have told you this or you might have found out, but the second time that he like hits her and more of that blood like sprays onto him, apparently the actor didn't know that was going to happen.
Oh shit.
So when Mel Brooks was like, hit her again, she's almost dead, and he's like, she's dead enough. And like his reaction and everything, that was all natural.
Oh really?
Yeah, because he didn't tell him. It was like 200 gallons of blood or something like that, and Mel Brooks like didn't tell him that was gonna happen. So everything about that scene is like natural.
Damn.
Yeah.
I never knew that, because I didn't bother to like check out the trivia. Just popped in the movie and I was like, all right, let's just fill my brain with dumb for like the next 2 hours.
I mean, that's how you get great scenes like that though too, and that's why Mel Brooks like stepped out of the way in that scene. So I don't know. I just thought that was hilarious.
Okay, I understand now. Fuck.
Yeah. Imagine being the director and be like, I'm gonna fuck with this guy.
Yeah, I would. Shit.
Hell yeah, that's how you get like the best comedy, honestly.
And even the best terror, when it's like just pure like for real reactionary.
Yeah. I love it. Even that's something that's missing in a lot of comedy movies, I feel like nowadays. You get it in some shows like It's Always Sunny, but just the people and their natural reactions, even people who like break on screen, like you can see them laughing. That stuff's awesome, in my opinion. Especially if you're doing like a spoof, at least. Maybe not in like Pineapple Express or something like that, but
yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like that really adds to the comedy. It makes it feel more like laid back. You don't have to take it so seriously,
Oh yeah, the whole like natural is what really gives everything. It's like really authentic feel. Like, I mean, not comedy, but Shelley Duvall in The Shining, how she was just like, how Kubrick would just like lock himself in a room with her and just fucking talk mad shit to her, and that's why she looked so fucking flustered throughout like the whole movie. I was wondering, like, damn, Shelley Duvall looks like she's in bad shape during this thing.
Yeah,
you know?
she was basically being tortured almost.
She's being mentally abused.
Yeah, no, shit was crazy. Luckily, I guess Mel Brooks didn't do that in this movie, but stuff like that is still very funny to me. And I wanted to ask what your favorite scene was, or what your favorite joke was, I guess, from this movie.
Not really favorite scene or joke. Okay, I got two that I had in mind.
Okay.
So one, I referenced it already. I kind of gave it away. I don't know why it got me. I think it's because like I said, the 90s were like not accustomed to this type of humor. Like even if you look at Student Bodies, which was like the first horror comedy, like the humor in that was so fucking stupid. Like it wasn't even like witty. Like, hey, da 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 da. Then someone replies something stupid. Like so two things I can that I really like from this movie. The one scene, the Italian scene, like, oh, she's a Nosferatu, she's Italian, like, and then that slight pause. No, she's the undead, you know, like, and then I think Leslie Nielsen's just accent throughout the whole thing, because like usually I'm pretty good at emulating things, but like I don't know, I can't give it that like Leslie Nielsen feel. Plus, it's him just being him, so I have to imitate not only a Transylvanian accent, but I have to imitate Leslie Nielsen in his crazy fucking Adam West-ish mind doing a Transylvanian accent. And it was just like, I mean, clearly it was fake. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be stupid to think like, you know, this movie wasn't like tongue-in-cheek, to think it was like, oh, they're really trying to create some art, but make it a satire. Like, and for me, that's what really did it. Just Leslie Nielsen is my favorite part of this movie. Like, just him being Leslie Nielsen. I think that's my favorite part of any movie with him in it, because he always plays himself. Doesn't matter if he's Frankenstein, Dracula, fucking a murderer. Well, besides in Creepshow, he kind of wasn't really Leslie Nielsen. He kind of freaked me out with that one, because he was like an actual like villain. You know, he was like a fucking dickhead. I didn't really expect him to be, but just Leslie Nielsen being Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, I mean, the dude was amazing.
He's just always Leslie Nielsen. So
yeah, Naked Gun, he was great in that too.
Yeah.
So
if you pause Airplane right now, here you can see his penis.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do that, I think.
Oh,
just for educational purposes.
For educational
academics
purposes only.
Of course.
We don't like seeing Leslie Nielsen's penis on a daily normally.
No, never, no.
But if we can,
or even on a weekly.
If we can catch it.
We'll give you guys the exact time.
Oh yeah.
A second. So anyway, yeah, I think that's gonna pretty much do it for Dracula Dead and Loving It, but it is a good segue into our primary discussion. So we're gonna kind of expand more on why certain things like this work to make a good horror comedy, but we do have some brief sponsored messages soon, so stay tuned.
Hi, this is Chris.
And this is Roger.
And if you like Tigers baseball, Major League Baseball, Minor League Baseball, analytics, pop culture references, movies, sports, food, check us out. Look for Tigers SRD on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify.
Hey, Samael.
Hey, Barnabas, what's up?
Oh, not much. Have you ever written a book?
No, but I've written a musical.
Oh, well, you can become a published author with Dorrance Publishing, the nation's oldest publishing services company.
Aha, I hear countless authors have trusted Dorrance for nearly 100 years to bring their books to the market.
Their professional team will edit your text, design your book pages, and create an appealing, eye-catching custom cover. Plus, their authors benefit from a custom book promotion marketing campaign that makes your book available where people buy books.
So, make this free call right now to claim your free author's guide to publishing. Do not wait another day. Take one step closer to realizing your dream of becoming a published author.
And seeing your name in print.
Aha! You've already written a book. Next thing to do is make this free call now to Dorrance Publishing and get your free guide to publishing. Call right now.
The number is 1-800-213-9259. Again, 1-800-213-9259. And welcome back, fiends, to our main segment today. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing what makes a great horror comedy, and just kind of an overall discussion about horror comedies, because there are a lot that have become very popular, but in general, I think a lot of horror films try to add some kind of comedic element, and a lot of them just don't really work. So, what makes a good horror comedy?
I don't know. For me, it would be being more realistic than a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like people running into like things and like doing dumb shit, like literally dumber shit than in a horror movie, or like when someone tries to throw a knife at like the killer, instead of it like spinning and landing like they're fucking Bruce Lee,
Yeah.
it like completely missing and killing a cat or something.
Yeah.
Those type of things. The more like clumsy approach, not staying true to tropes either. Like no final girl really, and if there is a final girl, like she survives because the satire in the movie shows how asinine the concept is of having like, oh, this girl's gonna survive because she's a virgin, and all these people are gonna die because they're having sex, and it's not like the whole like promiscuity thing is because they're distracted, And
Mhm.
for me, it's like, yo, realistically, like, it would be like the smartest person there that survives, doesn't matter if you're a virgin or not. And like, I think these movies that make fun of the tropes, like, Cabin in the Woods, for example, it was
Mhm.
more of a horror movie. It was still like, it was a meta horror movie, so it had to have like comedic elements like
Yeah.
the stoner and, exposition and whatnot. I think not having too much exposition too, I think would make for a great horror comedy, because
Mhm.
like horror movies are always like backstory in the woods 15 years ago. And it works when a horror comedy does it, but only when they show how asinine it is to like believe in such a thing, even if it's
Mhm.
real, because let's face it, most urban legends are just that.
Oh yeah, because in a regular horror film, you hear that or see that, and you're like, "Oh God, all right, here goes 10 minutes. I'm gonna know all about the killer, and then I'm gonna feel sorry for him, and then it's gonna end."
And
So
then
great.
like the horror comedies, as they're explaining the backstory of the killer, he's like walking around in the background, tripping over like banana peels and
Yeah.
shit. And whoa, like
Yeah.
if you all right, so
Tyler grew up in a whale exhibit,
yeah,
and then someone burned it down. Like what?
and now he burns down whale exhibits. Like what? But let's pick a good horror comedy and a bad one. So my examples for a good horror comedy: Shriek, If You Know What I Did Last Friday the 13th,
Okay.
one of our favorites,
Yep.
and a bad horror comedy, Student Bodies.
Okay. I don't actually know if I've seen Student Bodies.
It's not even close to being enjoyable. Like the killer literally like calls someone hello. He's like, "Why are you breathing like that?" "Oh, cause I'm the killer." There's the killer breathing. Like, and it's just like, oh my god.
What year was that movie?
I think it was the 80s,
Oh,
and it was the first horror comedy,
jeez.
and it was so fucking idiotic. Like, and it's like the runtime is pretty like decent too.
Mhm.
It's not too long, but it's not like short. So like, you really have to. Let me put it. You have to put up with the film.
Okay. Yeah, just like God, when is it ending?
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Oh, jeez. Man, that's terrible. Yeah, I feel you though. Now, it's funny that you mentioned Shriek, If You Know What I Did Last Friday the 13th.
Yeah, you got it right.
But because that's actually an example of the other kind of, in my opinion, like effective comedy in horror, which is like the really fucking over the top,
Yes.
like goofy comedy, just like in Dracula Dead and Loving It. Because I feel like it's either got to be that or it's got to be something like Club Dread.
Exactly.
There's little room for that kind of middle ground, because then you're just approaching being a horror movie with some comedic elements.
Exactly.
And if you do that, then it's just going to suck, because everything is going to feel like it's overacted or something. And, the whole vision of the movie is just not going to fit. So, but that movie was just ridiculous, but that's what made it work so well. And yeah, it was basically just Scream, but 20 times funnier. I guess actually, really, it was kind of scary movie, but probably funnier and just more over the top.
Oh yeah, and it explicitly Martina in the movie Shriek, If You Know What I Did Last. I'm just gonna call it Shriek. So Martina
Okay.
in Shriek kind of pointed out the tropes. Never, ever say you're gonna come back, making fun of Scream.
Mm.
There's always sexual gags, and then they show like a sexual gag. It's boner time, boy.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about that movie. Was really more so than Scary Movie, like explaining like horror movie tropes, and more so than Scream, and explaining the tropes of Scream as well, and like how really like not dumb, but like how just easy it is to like make fun of like the choices in horror and like things that actually happen, because it's mostly just bad luck combined with teenage stupidity.
Yeah, pretty much. And speaking of that, we really kind of wanted to focus on one movie in particular. I think that is a good modern example of touching on those tropes, but actually doing it in a pretty unique way.
Yeah.
So not a straight up spoof, so like something such as Shriek or a Scary Movie, but Tucker and Dale versus Evil touches on a lot of these tropes as well, but kind of flips them on their heads and introduces them into a unique concept and a cool story and a funny movie, in my opinion. So,
Oh yeah.
you just actually watched it for the first time. So, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was fucking hilarious. I had no clue one of these like in the woods horror movies existed, like comedy horror movies like this. I know we had Cabin in the Woods. We had the likes of like Bloodfest and all those, other ones, but I had no clue this one existed. Initially, I thought it was going to be Tucker and Dale like facing demons or like some zombies or something.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be like teenagers accidentally killing themselves, trying to kill people because they misjudged them as murderers. And that's the thing I mentioned earlier. What I like about horror comedies, when like the stuff that would happen in real life, like if you're gonna try to go kill someone, you could just trip and fall and just die. Especially like this isn't like in real life. This isn't a movie. You're not just gonna throw a javelin at someone or like try to hit someone with a spear. You're gonna like trip and fall into like a wood chipper.
Yeah, which is pretty much exactly what happens. And the other thing that really stands out too is just that the whole film essentially is looking at the concept of the unkempt kind of backwoods fucking beer drinking and fishing kind of redneck guy as this terrible evil killer.
Yeah.
Which a lot of movies have explored. I mean, even like Mad Men
Oh yeah.
and stuff like that did it. The Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw.
Wrong Turn.
Exactly.
House of
So
a Thousand Corpses.
yeah, just
which
because
is
someone,
essentially a Texas Chainsaw Massacre ripoff, but
yeah, but just because someone looks kind of weird, or you may think that they're like a freak or something, doesn't necessarily mean that they are.
they're usually just normal people.
Yeah, and this
Usually.
movie actually takes that to heart and initially does give us an impression that okay, maybe these guys are weird, but pretty soon it kind of lets us know that hey, these are pretty normal guys that are in just this really fucked up position, and these kids now think that they're evil when really they're the bad ones.
Yeah.
Which is just even not just the killer hillbilly thing, but slashers in general. This really kind of turns it around. Like, well, what if Michael was just being misjudged, or what if Jason was just misjudged?
Right? Like, what if, like, fucking, I don't know, what if someone happened upon Jason, this killer hillbilly mutant thing in the woods, and they're like, oh shit. And then they, like, ran away, and they tripped and broke their neck on a tree stump.
Yeah. I
don't
mean,
know.
yeah,
It's
basically,
plausible.
it's completely plausible. I mean, hey, they invaded Victor Crowley's swamp, so he
Yeah,
has
I
a
mean-
right to defend his home, right?
Like, he never leaves the swamp to try to kill people.
Yeah.
It's not what he's about. He's not about killing people. He's about killing people who trespass, which is normal. What if you're sitting in your house and like a bunch of teenagers just walk in?
Yeah, forget that.
They're dying. What the fuck?
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
not walking into my house without my permission.
No way. So that's pretty much what this movie is about, and it actually has some great characterization too. Even just the dynamic between Tucker and Dale was phenomenal, and then painting Dale as like this really innocent, sweet, dumb guy who just kind of wants like a chance with a girl. I just thought that was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and in this movie, the loser does get the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Not loser, but like perception of like who is supposed to be like the loser in the movie. Like
yeah.
Dale's supposed to be like the I'll never get a girl like that, and they're like he's like just talk to her. He walked up to her with a fucking Grim Reaper scythe, and he's like, "You guys going camping? All right, listen, guys, we don't want any trouble, okay?" Like it's like, yo, chill out, bro. Like,
Yeah.
The thing I like too is like the people who thought they were being the heroes, the college kids, they reacted to like people do in a horror movie, like, Why'd they leave him out here? They left him out here to send a message. Like, you know, like...
Yeah, it's like you guys really are dumb. You're just overreacting to everything and not actually thinking things through. And that was really kind of the whole joke. But there were just a lot of other funny moments with pretty naturally flowing dialogue that I thought was not really forced at all. It was pretty smooth. And I appreciated that about this movie too. Some movies definitely just take... I don't know. They just try too hard with the jokes, you know, and I feel like that's kind of the case with a lot of horror comedies now, or even just a lot of horror movies in general. They try to interject this like just really cringy humor into it, and I don't know. I just don't understand that. Like, who are you trying to appeal to?
Yeah, like
you know?
in Halloween 2018, it was kind of forced with that little kid, and then it was pretty much kind of forced in Child's Play. Like, there was, like, a lot of jokes, like, where, like, the detective's mom called Chucky a hobbit motherfucker. Like, you know, it was like, okay, like...
Even the Tupac thing, like, that was great, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's like, did you really need that in there? Like, is that actually relevant to anything?
Yeah, there's way too many forced comedic elements in these movies, I think, as it is.
Yeah, that's fair. So, but I mean, you know, this movie knew exactly what it was, which is important too. Like, you have to have a focus. I mean, we could talk about some other ones too. Shaun of the Dead, for example, is
Shaun of the Dead was dope.
Great example. That movie knew exactly what it wanted to be. It was funny as hell at the same time, which is, you know, hard not to be with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. But I mean, those dudes are geniuses at writing comedy, and everything in that movie felt pretty natural. And it really just played on the whole idea of like the guy who just is completely oblivious to the world around him, that like office worker personality, and there's zombies.
What I really liked about Shaun of the Dead, though, is how closely it was released to Dawn of the Dead, the remake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was like almost an immediate response. Like, hey.
You know what, though, too? Actually, that brings up a point that I was going to make earlier with Dracula Dead and Loving It, but that movie was actually released only like 3 years after Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which won 3 fucking Academy Awards.
No wonder it wasn't so well received.
Yeah, but it was kind of perfect timing for that movie to come out, though, anyway. You know, it was just a little bit wackier than Shaun of the Dead, which is why it wasn't well received. But it was timed okay, I think. You know, it was relevant. Everybody was all about Dracula at the time. So it made total sense. Then The Simpsons did it, you know.
Simpsons did everything.
Oh, well, that's true.
Remember how South Park, Simpsons did it, Simpsons did it.
Yeah. And then South Park kind of took that over. But yeah, essentially, you know, it was well timed. It wasn't like 10 years after or something like, hey, why is somebody making a Dracula parody?
Yeah.
You know? And Shaun of the Dead, pretty much the same thing. You know, zombies were hot. Really, they started gaining traction in like the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's perfect.
And then a Scary Movie came out shortly after Scream came out, which was like a direct response to like the slashers.
Exactly.
Then as soon as The Grudge came out and Signs, then Scary Movie jumped on that. Then House, what was the movie that, was it House on, no, it wasn't House on Haunted Hill that they made fun of in, or was it?
Yeah.
Was it House
or
on
the Haunting or whatever?
Yeah, The Haunting. Okay, and Scary Movie 2. Yeah. I mean, everything is, speaking of haunted house movies, a haunted house.
Yeah.
With the rise in popularity of Paranormal Activity and like Insidious and shit, a haunted house was like, you know what? What would black people do in this situation?
Yeah, and Paranormal Activity, exactly. So, I mean, that makes total sense. There were some movies that came out that I can't really find that correlation to, like What We Do in the Shadows, which I still think you have to watch as a fan of this subgenre. It's hilarious.
Okay.
I highly recommend it. But again, it's a unique concept. It's just 3 like aristocratic vampires living together in a flat in like New Zealand, and they just kind of go about their nights.
What year was that one?
2014.
Okay, so I guess
new.
I guess after the rise of the sparkly vampires and stuff like that, and then we had Dark Shadows too. Forgot all about Dark Shadows. I watched that recently actually, and I fucking love that shit.
Yeah, no, that was good. But yeah, there you go. Because when was that movie? Like
Dark Shadows?
Yeah, I want to say like 2011 or something like that, but I'm not sure.
I think 2012 or 2013, honestly.
Okay. But
I remember I watched it in theaters.
yeah,
I
but
was
it still
dying.
had some relevance. Yeah, and released kind of in that same time period, so it has to be topical. Like, you can't just have jokes that completely fall off. And why I think the Mel Brooks ones are still good to this date too. It's because a lot of what's happening, yeah, there are references, but it's just funny because it's funny.
Yeah, honestly.
It's not too forced. There's nothing like, they're not gonna make a fucking joke about, I don't know, what's something stupid. Talk about, say, Tide Pods, kids eating Tide Pods or
Yeah.
something. You go like 10 years into the future, you look back at it and like, that's so cringy. So
It really is.
but some jokes are timeless. So like Tucker and Dale's forever going to be funny because what's happening in the movie is why it's funny. Dracula 10 Loving It for me is always going to be funny.
Fucking Stan Helsing. That's one movie though that just randomly decided to like just be released making fun of all the slashers. Freddy and then Michael, then Jason was in there, Leatherface, Pinhead.
That one, I will say, that one kind of is toilet humor, but
But it's so good.
fucking funny. I mean, I guess if you're in like our age group or generation, I would think maybe it's a little funnier.
I'd give my left arm to be ambidextrous.
I mean, there's some good jokes in it too, though. So you just gotta have like a decent sense of humor, and I think, yeah, pretty much all the other elements that we talked about make up a solid horror comedy. I mean, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
If it's gonna be a spoof, play on the tropes. A lot of those do that. Obviously, witty, flowing humor or toilet humor, one or the other,
Mhm.
and just have it be relevant.
Mhm.
Like to what's going on, like in horror. You know what I mean? Because I think the next scary movie is bound to come out soon, and it's definitely gonna be a parody of Stephen King's It, Halloween, and like Chucky probably.
That would be cool. And I want to add one more thing too. Don't be afraid to break the fourth wall with it either, because a lot of great horror comedies, a reason a lot of the jokes are successful too, I feel like, is because they're kind of self-aware.
Oh yeah.
A lot of Mel Brooks' stuff too is funny because the characters kind of do what they do, but they realize that what they're doing is stupid as well.
Oh yeah.
Or and then they kind of just go about their business. So don't be afraid to break the fourth wall. I mean, a lot of these movies, they'll show like the camera crew or
Scary Movie and
some,
Shriek did that.
yeah, a lot of Mel Brooks movies did that too. I don't think Dracula did, but I could be
No.
wrong. So yeah, I mean, that's important too, I think.
Breaking the fourth wall. Don't be afraid to be meta.
Mhm.
All right. Look at Cabin in the Woods. It was literally an exploration of the meta. Okay. Look at Shriek. If you know what I did last Friday the 13th, they explored the tropes through a lot of exposition at the end of the movie. Like they're like, oh, now Bulimia Falls High School. Bulimia Falls High School.
Yeah.
They had a camera crew called MTV. Like, bro, it's all like so fucking genius. I don't think people realize it.
No, dude, I agree with that. So now that we kind of know what makes a good horror comedy, I think we're going to have to evaluate one in our last segment, where we put a new horror film that's streaming on none other than The Chopping Block. And in our last segment this week, we have a brand new movie to hit Shudder, Deadtectives.
If you haven't realized it, we're big Shudder fanboys.
Oh yeah, I mean, they have consistently pretty good movies, and this one as a Shudder original, I think they're just distributing it or whatever, but no, they curated this movie and directed by Tony West. I mean, what'd you think?
I was expecting like 100% like horror comedy, but it wasn't like your stereotypical like horror comedy. Sure, there was like gore. I really liked the way the ghosts looked. They actually looked like pretty intimidating, at least the mother and the father did.
Mm-hmm.
I like the concept of one of the good guys dying and still being around to help because he found a way to still communicate whilst like showing himself too. I like that they weren't able to escape the house,
Mm-hmm.
I like how it went from it was like sort of the last exorcism type of thing where it was like, oh, we're gonna like, just gyp people, and like
Mm-hmm.
get ratings. So all of a sudden like, oh fuck, we found some real shit.
Yeah, so this movie kind of reminded me of Grave Encounters in that aspect,
Yeah.
except that movie wasn't like meant as a horror comedy. Kind of, just because it's about this film crew who have like a ghost hunting show similar to something like Ghost Adventures or whatever, where they claim to help people. The main character is actually secretly kind of this douchey guy, which
Always
seems to be that way most of the time. So this is where it's kind of approaching that parody, level, is because it realizes that that's the kind of character that it is. And his girlfriend, of course, or fiance or whoever, doesn't agree with it, but they take one last job at this supposedly really haunted casa in Mexico, right?
yeah.
And so they go there. They're like, oh, no problem. We're going to set it up. It's going to be great. We're going to freak everybody out, and we're going to help them, and we're going to get paid and not be canceled. That was the whole thing. They were going to be canceled. So they show up to this place, and it ends up being real, and one of them dies, and then they kind of have to figure out what's going on. So I thought it was an interesting concept. The whole like them not being able to leave and him dying and stuff kind of felt like convenient solutions, but at the same time, I think that it was part of the parody. They're just like, we understand that in all these movies, it's so fucking hard to like escape. So we're just gonna tell you guys why they can't escape, and then we're just gonna move on with the story.
Yeah, they jumped out of a window, jumped back into the house through another window. There you go. Why is this happening? Because it's haunted. Move on.
Yep. And so then the humor and the actual story kind of played off like something such as Club Dread.
Yeah.
It wasn't that wacky over the top humor. It was a little bit more mature or serious, I suppose, in that aspect, but there were still lots of comedic elements. You can tell it was supposed to be a comedy.
Oh yeah, I knew right off the bat, like, since we were talking about horror comedies, that you were gonna definitely pick a 100% horror comedy.
Oh yeah.
And once I started it off, and like, they got the lady to like close down her shop because she stole her grandma's cookie recipe or whatever the fuck. I was like, all right, I see what kind of movie this is.
Yeah. I will say though that I feel like some parts of the comedy here, and obviously it's meant to be humorous, but they kind of play on the whole like Latin people as these like rambunctious, fucking fiery,
yeah.
call everyone puta and shit like that. Like I don't know if that was completely necessary.
That word popped up a lot in the movie.
It did. So I don't know if that was completely necessary, but there were some funny parts with it, I guess. The main guy, Jose Maria de Tavera, as Javier, was great.
Oh yeah, Javier was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. Even though it was a little much sometimes, but he was just very charismatic, acted well, did the role well.
He was kind of a dick though, because he didn't want to translate, even though he knows Spanish.
Yeah, I didn't really get that
Yeah,
part.
it's like, why me? Because you're the only... Bro, like...
Like, okay, if I'm the only Polish one in the room and somebody starts speaking in Polish, I'm not just going to be like, what? You're going to single me out because I was born in Poland? Like, what do you mean, you fucking dick?
I'd be like, yo, Barnabas, stop being a fucking cock and just tell us what he said.
Yeah, so I don't know about that, but some of the other humor was pretty good. Felt pretty natural. Maybe not all of it. Some of it, like, that puta stuff and all that was maybe a little much, a little bit forced, but for the most part, I think it flowed pretty well, and the story kept me engaged.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't on my phone during this movie at all, I was like, you know what, let me just become fully immersed in this movie, and like, the only negative thing I want to say is like, felt like some scenes were just like, they just took too long.
Yeah.
If it felt like it kind of started dragging after Javier picked up that statue and launched it at the wall to let them know, like,
yeah.
After that, it never really picked up. It started picking up near the end for about 15 minutes during the whole, like, when he took his chick and then the scuffle and then the possession and...
No, some of that stuff was good. Like, playing on the ghost tropes and the conventions was one of the positives about this movie, I think, for sure. Yeah, I think in, like, the second act, kind of, or, like, the second third of the movie was kind of where it lost some steam, but it picked it back up and had an ultimately satisfying resolution, I think. I don't know if it's being set up as a series or not, but I think this would be like a good one-shot movie similar to like The Final Girls or something like that.
I think so.
And maybe it could have shaved off, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes, and then I think it would have been a little bit better paced. So I'm just glad that it kind of made up for that dragging in the middle. But it wasn't the best paced or feeling movie. I will agree with you there.
But it was entertaining.
It was definitely very entertaining, and this is meant to be one of those more like fun movies. If you're tired of all the, haunted house movies, all the jump scare ghost movies, like The Conjuring or whatever.
I jumped actually one time in this movie.
Oh yeah?
Once.
Okay. Well, you can tell me what scene it was after this, but I mean, hey, you don't even jump in like regular scary movies sometimes, so that's a plus, I think.
It is. I never jump. I'm never surprised.
Yeah.
I can always anticipate something, but in this one thing got me and I jumped. So
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I will say too, without really giving anything away, the main villain of the movie is pretty cool.
yeah, he's pretty badass.
Yeah. So I think you'll enjoy it. Good practical effects when possible. There is some CGI. I think they actually do a pretty decent job of blending them.
I think so, yeah.
But it is kind of the comedy element that sort of gives it that leeway. Like if it was meant to be taken seriously, I wouldn't have cared for the CGI as much, I don't think.
Yeah, I would have started eye rolling a lot.
Yeah. So there's that pretty much. At the end of the day, I will say I'm not going to chop this one. I think it was a fun movie to watch. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, it's not chopped. If you have like an hour and 32 minutes free, check this movie out. You won't be disappointed, honestly, especially if you're trying to get a good chuckle.
There you go. So, yeah, I don't have anything more to say about it, really. You guys can let us know what you thought about everything we discussed today on our social media. We have a Facebook and Instagram where you can search for Grave Discussions and find us. You can also find us on Twitter. GraveDiscSRD is our handle. And you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and or Google Play. So wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find Grave Discussions.
And if you're interested in seeing a nice horror collection, you can follow me at Shape of Horror 78 on Instagram.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, follow him, guys. It's a good profile on there. So
Yes, I have so much stuff to show you. We have such sights to show you.
Yeah, guys. So that's gonna wrap it up here for episode 71 of Grave Discussions. Stay tuned next week for episode 72.
Yes, and next week we'll be riding across a tightrope blindfolded on a unicycle. Only here on Grave Discussion. We never do what we say we're gonna.
This has been an SRD production.